Hey everyone, Vanessa here, welcoming you back to another episode. So, in today's discussion, we have the one and only celebrity photographer and overall creative, J.Monroe. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's Friday, it's the end of the month, so I'm excited for the new month to start new beginnings.
I hear you 100%. I feel the same exact way. End of the month, Friday's here. Let's get things rolling properly.
Mhm.
All right. So, once again, thank you so much for joining me. I'm super excited to be speaking with you today. So, before we dive into all the good stuff,
Mhm.
I need for you to simply break it down however you want to, right?
Okay.
Let's start off with your upbringing. You are from the one and only Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Black Wall Street.
So
Yes.
please tell me how that has inspired you on a day-to-day basis and in the work that you currently do right now.
Okay, so it's interesting enough. I just turned 30 this year, and I
Woo.
think I say that to say I feel like when you turn 30, a lot of perspective comes into play
Mhm.
about how you were brought up and where you were brought up. And I'm like you said from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and being from Tulsa, Oklahoma, it's so black and it's so excellent. So me being a black owned business alone is kind of like the foundation of who I am. I'm a offset of Black Wall Street. I am my ancestors' dreams. I'm a black owned company, been working for myself now 5 years, going on six. And so just to exist as a black owned business alone is already a statement. I also would like to say, like being from North Tulsa, Tulsa is still very much so divided. And so being in a space where black people were just existing and I saw nothing but just black people and different types of black people. As a photographer, I use that as inspiration to show black people in a multitude of different versions of themselves because you're able to see like the cousins, the aunties, and those so many different facets of how we can show up and how we want to present ourselves. And ultimately, being from Oklahoma, naturally, I'm also Native American, which speaks to that part of me being able to speak to like the spiritual side of what that exists like. And so you see the influence in colors and influencing how I see black and brown people all together.
That is amazing. So it's like naturally in your blood. It's like,
Mhm.
you know what?
Literally.
Your
Yeah.
blood.
Yeah.
So that brings me to my next question. Your catchphrase and slogan, give me one second because I have to read it perfectly, is being born on Black Wall Street, but my mentality was raised in the Harlem Renaissance.
Mhm.
So please go further into describing how you came up with that description
Mhm.
and what exactly it means to you.
So the Renaissance part came into play because as I was growing up, I was always intrigued with so many different factors of art. I was always into dancing. I was always into acting. I was always into the band, photography, graphics. And I will say, I think there was a period in time where I felt like everyone just tried to put me in a box of what I'm supposed to do because they tell you focus on one thing.
Mhm.
That's how you make it in this world. Focus on making sure you're doing something that makes you happy. That's one set thing. And for me, I'm like, I can't just be one thing. And as I got older, I went to an HBCU. Shout out to Langston University. It's the
Okay.
most Western HBCU in the country, located in Langston, Oklahoma.
Mhm.
And you know how it is if you went to any HBCU, they teach you very much so about Black history and just being in a space of around Black people from different parts of the world, you're seeing different kinds. And so I was doing research and I stumbled across Langston Hughes and I stumbled across the Harlem Renaissance and I just felt myself to be engulfed with that. I like to say me and Beyonce were on one accord. Came out with Renaissance. I was like, see, she gets it. She gets me. She gets the vibe I'm trying to go for because I really
Mhm.
believe like I'm just the best version of myself in any capacity that I try to put myself in. And to be a Renaissance man is to be a talented creative in different facets of art. And so, like I said, I like to touch on different aspects of myself and don't try to be the best at it, but just try to be the best version of myself. Because I think as long as we try to be the best version of ourselves in whatever we do, you can add more talents to your repertoire and to single your identity as one thing will limit yourself, I think, personally. And then being from Black Wall Street, like I said earlier, it's who I am. And I've learned to appreciate it a lot more as I've gotten older, because there was a time span in my life where before everyone knew about the Black massacre and the Tulsa massacre, no one knew there were Black people in Oklahoma. Nobody knew there were anything besides just cattle and land in Oklahoma. And as soon as things like Watchmen and Lovecraft Country came out and people started really seeing what Black Wall Street was, I took it as a badge of honor because I've always known about it. I was raised in it, so it's a part of me. And my parents were blessed enough to kind of let me know beyond the school system what that was and what it's meant to be from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I was like, I wear it as a badge of honor to say, yes, there are Black people in Oklahoma, and I'm usually the first impression. So I say I'm a great first impression if I do say so myself.
I agree 100%. And I love the answer to that question. You touched on something I think is also very, very important. I feel like growing up, especially some of our parents who kind of had things a little harder, you know, and they kind of stuck to the book for certain things, they really do try and tell you, like, it's okay for you to dabble in this and dabble in that, but just make sure you focus on one thing. And I feel like that's something all of us as millennials, even we see it in Generation Z, we're all like, no, we can do A, B, and C. And I also think it's great how you touched on how you don't really have to be a perfectionist at what you're doing. You just have to be the perfect version and do it to the best of your ability.
And actually, as you get older, you're just naturally better at it. Because a lot of the things that I've done, I've just stuck at it. Like photography, it was something I picked up a camera when I was like 7 or 8, like disposable cameras that you would get from Walgreens. My mom would let me play with them, and I just felt that's something I always like to do. And then I would like dancing. And instead of just putting something down, I found that as I've gotten 30, like it's okay to go back and grab old parts of yourself to bring into the new version of yourself, because ultimately they all are different versions of yourself who make you who you are.
Amen. Amen. I agree 100%. I think that's so true. It's funny because the other day I was reading something on Twitter that talks about like life through your 20s and how for some reason, and I felt like a lot of people agree too, like 30 kind of brings in a new chapter because, you know, it's a different age, but things just start to click. You start to find yourself liking the things that you kind of maybe gave up on or just stopped paying interest to in your younger years. Now, all of a sudden, they're working out well, your relationships are better. You've learned so much and you're picking things back up. So that's amazing that you agree too. And that you can relate.
I was going to add to that too, because for me, it's even crazier because it's like I said, turning 30 really was, I was one of those people, if I'm being honest, that when someone would say, when you turn 30, something just clicks. I'm like, I don't just see how something will just click from the age start. But then literally, it's just like something really does happen where it's just like an aha moment. And then your life is really put in perspective of like, okay, I really have been living for 3 decades now. And I think what it is you now have a lot more decades to reference versions of yourself. And like you said, it's beautiful to finally find versions of yourself and be like, oh, I like this version of myself. I'm gonna add this to this new version and see how I've elevated in this version of myself.
For sure. For sure. I agree 100%. I feel like I also just got like, you know, some motivation myself. While I'm not 30 yet, I'm like kind of preparing for it because I feel like in some ways things are really going to pick up and get better. So I'm excited.
You should be, but baby, because you look, if you're close to 30, I don't know how old you are, you don't look nowhere near it. Because even then, to say I'm 30, the best reaction is when I tell people I'm 30, like, you 30? I'm like, oh yeah, this is what 30 looks like in 2022. We're the new 30. We look 22 because we drink our water, we mind our Black-owned business.
Amen.
That part.
Okay, so I want to talk about a first for you. I know that you recently had your first solo exhibit in New York City. Exactly. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I saw the images and they looked amazing. So naturally, I want to say that when you start something new, especially if it's something that you're passionate about, there's a mixture of emotions. You are equally excited and also nervous. So talk to me about the process leading up to the solo exhibit, Reflecting Beauty.
Yes. It happened after a breakup, actually. So
Wow.
I went through a breakup, and as anybody who's going through a breakup knows, especially it was my first love, like my first relationship at the age of 29, I felt like stuck, and I needed something that was going to get me out of my funk, keep me focused, and get me out of like what that world was, as well as I wanted to embrace this new version of me. I told myself in 2020 that I wanted to do an art show in New York, and COVID happened. So everything stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So this was, I felt like the best time to do it because even though COVID isn't gone, it has let up, especially in New York. So the reflecting beauty concept came from exactly that, the idea of growing as an artist, growing as an individual, but also growing as Black people, growing as a community. And if you saw the images, the idea came from a garden. The photos were references of my flowers, and I was the gardener, and the reflecting beauty was my garden. And I wanted to insert Black people into the space to show them we exist and we can exist as ourselves. A lot of the times, I say it all the time, I feel like white photographers kind of create, and not just white photographers, I feel like the media creates this space where Black imagery can only be seen as caricaturized, where we're overly Black, overly big lips, overly large noses, or sexualized. And I want my work to exist as just us being beautiful. Like I said, being surrounded by a lot of Black people in Oklahoma, we were just Black. I didn't see us as anything else but that. And I wanted people to come to the show and see themselves in my work because that's how I see us. And I also wanted them to see themselves in the best version of themselves. So the reflecting piece comes into play as look at yourself. You're beautiful for who you are, for what you are. And you push through the concrete and you grow and we blossom in our best way. And it speaks personally to me because I've grown as an artist since I wanted to do since I first started. I've grown as a person since the show first started and since it's going on because I'm trying to make it bigger and better. And it's a love letter ultimately to the Black community, and it's a love letter to myself because you need to love yourself. You need to love who you are in order to, find yourself in this world because this world will break you down if you let it.
That's very, very true. That's really, really true. And I feel like all of us can relate to that on a certain type of level. So I think that's amazing. And I know that you selected 8 images to showcase in the show. And you talked about your inspiration and what led up to actually having the show. So for the 8 images, what story do you think you were trying to tell with those specific images? Because I know as an artist, it's so hard sometimes to choose your work because you love everything. So
Yeah,
what got those 8 to the finish line?
exactly what you said. That was the hardest thing about this whole show, the photos. And I've been shooting for a long time. It's hard to pinpoint. I tell people, first time I got paid was in 2010 in college. The first time I picked up a camera, like I said, was so early on, but I've been working for myself 5 years. So imagine in that time frame, I've shot so many types of photos and I'm shot in so many different pieces of work. But I wanted to focus on work that I was newly creating, only because the work that I curated during COVID was special to me because I had to create it in a creative way. No studios were open. A lot of the models were not working, and so a lot of the photo shoots were actually happened on my roof, and or they were reimagined photos that I had done in the past that I decided to redo and remaster. To kind of point out some references of some, I had one called No Threat, No Weapon, and there was a silhouette of three men, all exposed, naked, and that was a picture that I originally took in 2016.
Wow.
In 2020, during the Floyd protest in New York, I felt compelled to reimagine it because I was like, I want to show Black men in a very exposed manner. And so you see them naked because it shows that even in our most exposed state, we're still seen as a threat and we're still seen as a weapon. And so the piece shows them that no, we're not a threat. We're not a weapon. And it doesn't matter what you see us to be. We are just existing in our beautiful bodies as we are. And each piece references rather the colors or the title, Black people showing strength, Black people showing freedom, and Black people showing grace. And that's what I think a flower shows in general when it comes to like growing from the concrete, like the rose that grew from the concrete.
Yes.
Another piece of work I'll show you, I would say, is the main attraction photo, which is the photo with the woman. I don't know if you referenced the glove. She's doing
Mhm.
this, and she has the big mane.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, it's called main attraction because one, it's a main
Mhm.
attraction. And I think a lot of the times, Black people, especially Black women, your hair is always seen as the main attraction of conversation. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter what room you enter in, you always have to be aware of what your hair is like because you're aware that when walking in the room, whether it's straight, whether it's natural, whether it's locked up, it's going to make a statement. So it's like
Mhm.
your hair is your main attraction, and it should be because guess what? It's beautiful. It's as big as you want it to be. It's as sculptured as you want it to be, and it should be the type of conversation because it's always going to be a statement.
That's true. That's very true.
So no, it's
Oh
fine.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
So no, in all of that, I'm saying in general, like a lot of the work, a lot of the titles, like I said, speak to a flower and how I see Black people and like how I wanted the stories to be told, and just again reflect the beauty that we are in different avenues. One focusing on body, one focusing on hair, one focusing on skin, and that's the overall theme for every single image that I selected.
That's so crazy and amazing. And I love the story behind it. I really, really do. Because looking at the images, I just feel like, first off, anybody looking would be like, wow, this is
Mm.
amazing. These
What's your
pieces
favorite?
are amazing.
I need to know your
I would
favorite.
have to say it would have to be the woman dressed in red, all red.
Ooh, Tool Rose. Yes.
I was just like, oh my gosh, this
Mm.
is talent. This
Oh,
is talent.
thank
Like
you.
we all know you're talented because you've worked with many different companies, and we'll get to that question in a few. But I was like, wow, this exhibit was amazing.
I will say this. I think, especially reference to the art show itself,
Mhm.
our generation, we appreciate, even hearing your reaction, it makes me feel so good. And I'm like, oh my God. It's because I'm excited that people are getting it because I feel like our generation, we don't get the credit that we deserve and that we really appreciate talent. And
Mhm.
not even talent, we appreciate art.
Mhm.
And I just don't think we're able, and we've never had the space to appreciate art in a way that I've created it. So we only see it via social media. So
Yes.
even for me, seeing my work as big as it was in an art show, it made me realize, no, the work is bigger than just the phone. It should be seen because it's not just a photo, it's a piece of work that
Mhm.
exudes more than just, oh, I took a pretty picture of a pretty brown girl, you know?
Yes.
And I think for me to create that space and seeing you react and seeing people react, it shows that like, no, you are right. Our generation does appreciate a lot more than what they tell us we appreciate. We just have to curate a space that would look like what we want it to look like.
That's very true. And I feel like that goes to go into play on how many events that you constantly hear about. Your friend will maybe tell you like, oh, hey, this company is collaborating with this
Mm-hmm.
person and it'll be an amazing event. Or
Mm-hmm.
you hear and see like friends of yours or even people in the industry that work
Mm-hmm.
in spaces where they are event managers, event coordinators, and you'll see something amazing like for Black History Month or something. You'll
Mm-hmm.
have a big brand do a big like exhibit or just like
Mm-hmm.
a little something for people to stop by, take pictures, look, get a history lesson sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely agree. Our generation for sure appreciates art and creatives
Mm-hmm.
overall and in general.
And we're in a renaissance. Beyonce said it. We're in a renaissance of Black art and Black creatives showing up authentically and us being able to show up in different facets and
Mhm.
however we want to show up because we now have the freedom to.
For sure. I agree. So I know we talked about you not wanting to be placed in a box because why? You're amazing at multiple things, right?
Right.
So I do want to ask you, for example, if you had to teach a course, because I know you dabble in more than just photography. There's
Mm-hmm.
photography, there's web design, there's
Mm-hmm.
production. So
Mm-hmm.
if you had to dabble in a course that you'd have to teach, maybe I don't even want to say the younger generation. I'd say maybe let's say 9 to 14-year-olds. Which subject would you teach if you
It's
had
kind
to choose?
if I'm going to be honest, I did a course this year, ironically, at Benedict College. Yes, I did a class for graphic design with Benedict
Mhm.
College. It's an HBCU in South Carolina, and I taught graphics and how to create an EPK, and we created an EPK for BOB. So I've done that already for a college course,
Mhm.
but if you were to give me the time frame of, I guess, high school, you're saying?
Like elementary to middle school, like 9 to like 14 years old. Well,
I would
14
have,
would be in high school too. So
yeah, depending on the state, some people do it differently.
mhm.
I would say honestly, photography, only because in this new age, imagery is becoming more and more apparent,
Yes.
especially with social media. And I
Mhm.
want to show students and anybody who is actually interested how to take a good picture, what it means to take a picture. Because I remember when I was younger,
Mhm.
it was always an event to take pictures. You had to get dressed. Your mom would take you to the store or like
Yes.
60 pennies or whatever. And it was always like a big event to take photos. And I
Mhm.
feel like, not to say we've lost it, because I don't think we've lost it, but the appreciation of photography is definitely kind of dwindled only because it's all everyone has a phone, everyone has a camera now. On
Yes.
your phone, everyone has accessibility to take a picture, and we're always consistently taking photos. And I want to show them to the importance of, like, when you're taking your picture, you're honestly taking a picture that's going to be historic. Your grandchildren are going to see these photos. Your great grandchildren are going to see these photos. You're telling the story of our world and what it exists like now. And to kind of teach them the importance of it, I think it's important, considering that it's a way of the world moving forward. That's the way the world is kind of going toward.
Okay, that makes sense. Photography.
Yeah.
Those students will be lucky, and I'm not in that age range anymore, but I will definitely take that course. So, listen, if it happens, please call me, email me. I'm there. I'll be the oldest in the class.
Listen, I'm thinking about doing some courses. I'm ready to start, like I said, sharing my knowledge with people, because I feel like you're only as valuable as the knowledge you share with people, honestly. Like,
Mhm.
because once it's all said and done, if no one knows what you know, have you really shared with the world what you can do?
That's true.
This is a question.
That's true. Listen, all of this is amazing stuff. Like, I feel like anyone watching this will definitely get an insight on you,
Mhm.
your work, and all of the great ideas and thoughts that you have. So, thank you for that.
Listen, out here living life.
All right. So, you have blessed many, many outlets, magazines, even celebrities with your talent and your work. So, if you had to choose another, I guess, outlet, which would you say that you are kind of dying or just waiting patiently to work with? Which outlet, brand, or I guess magazine?
Oh, there's so many.
Okay, so I'll say top three. Is that okay?
Now, I'm gonna give you a top one, just to be fair.
Okay.
I'll give you a top one. The
Okay.
crazy thing is, I really would love for it to be okay. It has to be a top three. I
Okay.
really, in my head, the child in me would love to say GQ, just because it's something that I always wanted to see, and to kind of show them how to shoot Black people would be dope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to show my perspective of how I would shoot for GQ would be interesting. But the top of the list is Ebony and Essence, just because growing up, your mama always had the magazines growing up in the house. So nostalgically, to be able to shoot for a magazine that I grew up on would honestly mean the world to me. The big magazines like the Vogues and the Harper's Bazaars will come, I feel like, but as you can probably tell, I'm really for the people. I really love
Mm-hmm.
Black culture, and to say I shot for Essence and to have my mama have the magazine, it would just feel a lot more full circle for me.
Understood. And I am going to speak it into existence for you. You will shoot for Essence very, very soon. Listen, the new year is right around the corner. It's crazy to say, but hey, who knows what could happen?
2022 came in and came out. He was like,
Really,
we're here and we're leaving.
really. I agree 100%. That's how it felt.
Gosh, I'm like, slow down. Slow down.
Okay. It's already the 30th of the month, but whew.
Mm-mm. But that's why I'm actually also excited to be going to Atlanta for this month, because I live in New York and it's going to get real cold soon.
Very
So
soon.
let me get some warm weather before I come back up here.
Agreed.
Mhm.
So I know that you are on tour with the exhibit, and the final stop is at home, which is amazing. I know you're it's like a homecoming. You're super excited to go back and
Mhm.
show them, like, hey, look, this is what I did.
Just to help.
So where is the next stop? If you can share. If you can't, then that's okay. Or
I
would you rather
will
people wait?
There's a couple things in works for the next stop.
Okay.
I will say the one that is set in stone for sure is Atlanta for January 15th.
Okay.
That's going to be a very, very big one. And I'm excited to have like, because Atlanta, I would say is my second home because when
Okay.
I moved from Oklahoma to Atlanta in
Yes.
2015 and I lived there for 5 years. And then I moved to New York.
Mhm.
6 months later, COVID. So
Mhm.
like it was very much like, oh wow. So Atlanta, I would say is like a second home because Atlanta taught me, what did it teach me? Atlanta, I would say, fostered the black owner, the black owned company, black owned business owner in me, while New York catered to like teaching me how to be an artist and really fostered being what my art meant and having purpose beside behind my photos and not just taking a photo. So being in Atlanta is gonna be like a homecoming as well. So the fact that that's gonna be my next show, and there's supposed to be some shows in the mix between that. Like I said, we're
Okay.
still working on some kinks. Still gonna
Okay.
wait up. But for sure, Atlanta, January 15th. Make sure you're there because it's gonna be big.
All right. All right. So for my last question, this is strictly just for fun. When you like to have a drink or two, what would you say is your favorite drink or champagne?
Oh, you gonna call me so lame? I drink Ensure and Gatorade. Like I am a health freak. I do not drink like that.
Oh, okay.
But
I'm
I did go to college. So
uh-huh.
I will say I drink. My birthday is Cinco de Mayo,
Okay.
which is literally almost National Tequila Day. So it's like I don't drink, but I do make special occasions on my birthday.
Hmm.
So when I'm drinking, I would say anything with like a Douce or a Crown Apple and Coke. I'm the dark alcohol kind of guy now. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
All
anything with
right.
those two.
It's so funny because you said Ensure and Gatorade first, and I was like, wow, okay.
No, like I'm very much so ensuring Gatorade all day. That's why listen, we're trying to look 22 and 24 in our 30s as long as we can.
I understand. I get it. So thank you so, so very much for your time. I wish you the best of luck in all that you get done and all that you do for the remainder of the year and the next. I really, really enjoyed speaking with you.
It was
And
short. I'm like, what? We already done? Great. I'm just getting it warmed up.